So he says he needs to talk to me alone, and I'm thinking, I don't know, does he want to raise or what's going on? But I'm thinking, cool, I got to tell you about this Street Outlaws thing. So Aaron's got his serious hat on, and he's fixing to tell me something, and I'm pretty sure I'm not going to like it.
To quote Stevie Nicks, I think I have to go my own way.
It was the chemistry between its two hosts, dealer Richard Rawlings and mechanic Aron Kaufman. Together, they created magic with Fast and Loud by showing the entire process of buying, restoring, and selling cars while educating their audience along the way. But in 2016, that dynamic duo came to an unexpected end when Aron Kaufman announced his sudden departure, sending shockwaves through the fan base. Did Aron really leave because of a disagreement with the show? Was it a clash of personalities? Or maybe something deeper behind the scenes? And how did Richard think about his departure? Join us as we uncover shocking details that changes everything. Aron Kaufman, in his initial days, was a gearhead with his passion for innovation and machinery, spent most of his time creating custom cars. At an early age, Aron dropped out of college to pursue his career in automobile fabrication, but the decision hit hard due to the lack of stable income. However, in 2002, his hard work towards his craft caught the attention of Richard Rawlings, a hustler with big dreams, and the owner of Gas Monkey Garage, specializes in restoring cars. Richard wanted to convert his garage business into a full-blown automobile empire, but he required the right person to handle the process with precision, and Aron was the one who could fit the job right. The two were a strange match at first glance because of Richard's character of loud, outrageous, and always gets people working, while Aron was quite the opposite, quiet, calm, and comfortable behind closed doors. This might be the reason for the success of Gas Monkey Garage, where Richard worked on the business end while Aron took care of the custom builds. In 2012, the Fast and Loud show premiered, sharing their day-to-day process of building and customizing cars. The audience were attracted to the show's uniqueness and how well they design each car to be one of its kind. Fans' admiration towards Aron for his technical expertise, and it didn't take long for the show to gain massive popularity. Aron's honesty made him feel real. He wasn't there to become a TV star, he was rather focused on building the best car he could. But his hard work was undervalued and mistreated. While Richard just focused on closing deals and spent the rest of his time relaxed, however, Aron was buried between the engines working through sleepless nights to meet impossible deadlines. But why had Aron never questioned Richard's involvement in the process? Was this leading to something far more dangerous? The cameras kept rolling, and the work became more stressful. The shop once felt like a haven for creativity, started to feel more like hell filled with machines. With each episode, there must be a finished product, and for Aron, who focused more on precision, this workload proved to be devastating. With increase in popularity, Aron had limited control over the creative work, and the enthusiasm that made him work started to fade away. The members of the garage noticed Aron's frustration, and the weight he's been carrying behind the scenes became far more complex. He was still building, but it wasn't his anymore. This led to differences between the team, but the conflict was more between Richard and Aron. On camera, Richard and Aron looked like the perfect pair that brought a rare balance to Fast and Loud. Richard trusted Aron for the creative builds, and Aron in return trusted Richard for running the business. But over time, the cooperative gap between them widened. Fast and Loud wasn't just a car show anymore, it was more about drama and content. This process drew Aron's attention from doing it right to getting it done. On the other hand, Richard, as the face of the brand, focused more on sponsorship deals, media appearances, and opportunities that stretched far beyond the garage, but he had very few considerations for the man who made it all happen. What Richard wanted was more volume, but Aron preferred craftsmanship over volume. This led to creative tension between them, two different visions, heading in different directions, and in the end, it became clear one of them had to walk out. The only question remains, who is willing to sacrifice everything they once loved to do? As time went by, Aron took the final call, leaving fans shocked, most of whom watched the show just for his presence and the dedication towards his custom builds. Even when Aron informed Richard about his departure from the Gas Monkey Garage, he didn't even ask him to stay longer instead. He was more satisfied in letting him go, rather than having a conflict along the process. The moment there was no controversy, no backlash. Instead, it felt quiet. Almost too quiet for someone who had just walked away from one of the most popular car shows on television. But you could feel it. Something wasn't right. The episode showcasing his departure was aired a year later, showcased how the Fast and Loud team treated him. For Aron, fame was always a byproduct, not the actual goal. He cared more about the build, the challenges, and the time taken for problem solving. In an interview, he said, "I wanted to build cars that were bigger or better, and then TV needed cars that were much smaller than that." He wasn't talking about size. He was talking about the ambition and vision. He wanted to chase projects that took time, that pushed his limits, testing everything he knew as a builder. But instead, he found himself squeezed by timelines and producers who didn't understand what it took to create a masterpiece. Aaron didn't leave because he hated Richard. He left because he couldn't stay and be the version of himself that Fast and Loud needed him to be. Instead of letting himself be destroyed by the process, he chose to walk away. Not as a failure, not as a quitter, but as a man who knew that sometimes stepping back is the only way to move forward. However, what awaits for Aaron in the future might be something no one expected. When Aaron Kaufman stepped away from Fast and Loud, it was like a wheel coming off a car at full speed. The show kept rolling, but sooner or later it's going to crash. And fans noticed it immediately. The builds continued, the music still blasted. Richard Rawlings cracked jokes and closed deals, but the magic was no more. Aaron wasn't just another guy in the shop. He was the show's foundation. His knowledge, creativity, and no BS attitude grounded Fast and Loud in authenticity. And without him, the builds felt less focused on creativity. New builders came in, the format was tweaked, but it was too late, and by 2020, just 3 years after Aaron's departure, Rawlings made it official. Fast and Loud was over. So why did Richard decide to end the show now, despite its decline for the past 3 years? Richard's answer might leave you speechless. Followed by Aaron's departure, while Fast and Loud was riding high, pumping out hit episodes and flipping custom cars, things inside Gas Monkey Garage weren't nearly as polished. To viewers, it looked like a dream job, building wild cars with a talented crew and a national audience. But behind the scenes, Aaron Kaufman was starting to feel the cracks forming, and they widened with every season. At first, the show was fun, the builds were creative, the energy was real, and there was a sense of freedom in the process. But as the series gained traction and the money rolled in, the dynamic shifted. It wasn't about the builds anymore. It was about the deadlines. The network wanted faster turnarounds, tighter production schedules, and more dramatic moments. What once felt like a car show for enthusiasts started to change into a reality show chasing behind ratings. For someone like Aaron, that was a problem. He wasn't interested in fake drama. He wasn't interested in cutting corners for the sake of a story. He wanted to build cars the right way, not the rushed way. But as the production timeline tightened, those creative freedoms started slipping away. Builds that would normally take months had to be squeezed into a few weeks or days. That meant sacrificing detail, innovation, and the kind of craftsmanship Aaron took pride in. The more popular the show became, the more scripted it felt. While Discovery never officially classified Fast and Loud as a scripted reality show, segments started feeling more staged. It wasn't just the build process that affected him. The atmosphere in the garage started to change. With increased fame came more distractions, many of whom had never picked up a wrench in their lives. Aaron started feeling like a performer, not a builder. Meanwhile, the contrast between him and Richard Rawlings became more apparent. Richard was the businessman. He thrived under pressure, made fast decisions, and focused on profits. Aaron, on the other hand, was an artist. He wanted each build to tell a story, to reflect passion and technical brilliance. And while Aaron didn't complain publicly, those closest to him noticed the shift. He wasn't having fun anymore. He wasn't proud of the rushed builds. And more importantly, he wasn't fulfilled. For Aaron, the breaking point was right around the corner. The show faced a huge drop in viewership. The die-hard car community, the ones who watched for the craft, weren't as invested anymore. Today, Aaron Kaufman and Richard Rawlings exist in completely different worlds, linked by history, but clearly on separate paths. One chased peace, the other chased a business empire. Aaron has kept it low-key. No splashy headlines, no comeback tour, just focused on building, deliberately, and on his own terms. Through ArcLight fabrication, he continues to work on the kinds of projects he was never allowed to touch at Fast and Loud. Ford trucks, full custom jobs, and complex fabrication. It's the kind of lifestyle you'd expect from someone who left fame behind not because he had to, but because he wanted to. Aaron still shows up at the occasional car show or makes a guest appearance in interviews, but he's not trying to turn his name into a brand. He doesn't need to. His credibility was built the hard way, through respect, through raw talent, through years of grinding when no one was watching. And Richard? He's done the exact opposite. Richard Rawlings took the Gas Monkey brand and scaled it into a full-blown business machine. Restaurants, a tequila brand, a massive merch operation, and more recently in digital content. He's leaned all the way into the spotlight, and to his credit, he knows how to keep people watching. But the deeper question fans keep asking is this: do Aaron and Richard still talk? From everything that's come out, the answer seems to be no. It's been years now, and they've each gone out of their way to avoid addressing each other directly. When asked in interviews, they both keep it professional, saying things like, "We had different visions," or "It was time to move on." The truth is, they probably respect what they accomplished together, but neither one wants to go back. Aaron wasn't built for the fame machine, and Richard wasn't going to slow down for anyone. They had their moment, they made their mark, and then they walked in different directions. But if you ask fans today who really made Fast and Loud what it was, you'll hear the same name over and over again, Aaron Kaufman. What made Fast and Loud special in the beginning was the contrast between Rawlings' fast-talking energy and Kaufman's obsessive attention to detail created a tension that drove the show forward. Richard revealed, "I'm done with the drama." After 16 seasons, he said he wanted to focus on new business ventures and away from the grind of television. It looked strategic, but fans knew there was more to the story. Aaron Kaufman didn't burn bridges or go off the rails like so many reality TV personalities tend to do. Instead, he did something far more difficult. He chose integrity over fame. In an industry built on speed, spectacle, and staying visible, Aaron did the opposite. He stepped away, not because he had to, but because he refused to let his passion be enslaved by deadlines and executive decisions. That move, more than anything else, defined who he is. Walking away from Fast and Loud wasn't the end of the story. It was a turning point, a rebirth. Was it always Aaron's craftsmanship that kept people watching Fast and Loud? Did the show lose its soul when he left, and was the exit hiding something far more sinister? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe for further updates.